Hi guys, welcome. Today we are going to talk about 10 perennial types that you should consider cutting back in the fall. 2 you really should. And then 9 perennials that you may want to wait and probably should wait until late winter or early spring to cut back. I'd like to welcome you to my backyard Kentucky homestead. My name is Kim, and let's get started. So all of this goes with a caveat of you need to do this when you have time to do it. It is mid-November, so it is getting later. Some areas are super cold already. We've had a very warm fall here. I mean, we've still got flowers blooming. We've got tomatoes blooming. We've got a couple peppers still out in the garden. It's crazy how much we still have growing. So the reasons that you may want to cut back perennials in the fall is to, one, reduce the amount of gross cleanup you've got to do in the spring, especially anything leafy like hostas or lamb's ear. They're just going to get wet, soggy, and rot. It's going to be a mess. Also, you want to reduce the amount of pest pressure that you have next year. Hostas especially are really good at overwintering slugs. And if you live in a wet, humid climate, like I do, probably going to have a lot of slugs. And I'll tell you how many I've already found this fall. And then the other is just to reduce the amount of disease, like powdery mildew or just rot, fungal diseases. So there's a lot of really good reasons. There are a few reasons not to. And that is generally going to be to protect the crown of the plant. Let's start with the 10 perennials you should consider cutting back for the fall. Now, I have grouped some of these together because they're kind of like in their structure and how they grow. So number 1 would be bee balm. Absolutely gorgeous. One of my favorite perennials. The scent it gives off is amazing, but it is very prone to powdery mildew, so it is a really good idea to go ahead and cut it all the way back. I cut some of mine back already. They've already started to regrow because we've had such a warm fall, but it is a really good one to go ahead. Trim it back so that it is ready to go in the spring. Number 2 is going to be your daisy type flowers, like blanket flower, gaillardia, painted daisies, Shasta daisies. Again, they have a lot of area where they can overwinter pest and disease. It's a really good idea to go ahead and clean those out, cut them all the way to the ground, and they will regrow fresh in the spring. The third group I've put together don't necessarily all grow together, but columbine, phlox, and catmint. All of them have a lot of gangly growth. I would also put the gara in this group. Go ahead and cut that back. Clear out any damaged or diseased leaves. Go ahead and make sure you get rid of those. You do not want to compost anything that's diseased. And then they will not have to fight that old growth come spring when they're ready to grow and get going. So another one that's really messy, if you leave it, is going to be your bearded iris and your daylilies. They're going to flop over when they get wet and cold, and then they're just going to start rotting and get gross and slimy, and just go ahead and clean them out now. So your 5th one that I've grouped together is going to be your hollyhock, your penstemon, and your Japanese anemone. You want to cut these back to the ground. Don't cut the base of the very base of these plants. Go ahead and snip off any of the dead foliage, the stalks. I've already cut some of my penstemon back, and because of the warm weather, they've already grown more, and they're actually flowering again. So really hardy plants, but go ahead and cut them back. Don't cut the base, but go ahead and cut those back. One that you really need to go ahead and cut back are your peonies. These are going to damage when it frosts. They're going to start rotting, and they're going to be a mess, and they're going to make it hard on the plant to come back healthy in the spring. So go ahead and cut the peony. You're going to cut it all the way to the base. The 7th one is going to be your salvia, speedwell, and veronicas, which I kind of, in my mind, put together. They all kind of grow the same way. They are one that is very healthy. Even mid-season, once it's finished blooming, if you cut it back, it's going to regrow, and it just makes the plant healthier overall. It's going to bush out better. So go ahead and cut that one back so it's got a really great start for spring. The 8th one is going to be yarrow. You want to go ahead and cut your yarrow back. It is one that does not like to be overly wet, and having extra foliage on it that flops over, starts to rot on top of it, it self-mulches, and it can actually cause the base of the plant to rot out, and you don't want that to happen. So the 9th one is going to be your stilbe type plants. Mine have already died back. I've trimmed them off. Any of the foliage across the board of any plant that is dead, go ahead and clean that out. There are some that look good, like we'll talk about here in a second. But for a lot of, if it's brown, if it's crunchy, go ahead and get rid of it. The 10th group is going to be your hostas and brunnera. This is another one that you really, 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 really need to go ahead and get rid of the leaves on that once they start dying back, because they do, again, they'll rot, they'll foster disease, but they really, really provide perfect environment for slugs, and we don't want slugs next year. So let's take down the pest pressure, get rid of the leaves on the hostas and the brunnera and other leafy ones. I would put lambsare in this group as well. So the ones you don't want to cut back until at least late winter or early spring would be your corbel or heuchera plants. They are semi-evergreen and will look good a lot of the winter. But when they do start pushing new growth in the spring, we want to make sure to go ahead and clear out anything that is dead or damaged. So the second one you should leave are your cone flowers. If the leaves look bad, go ahead and take those out. Leave those stems, leave the seed head of the coneflower in. It's really good for birds and other wildlife to help them source food throughout the year. And it also gives you winter interest in your garden. Another one you can keep for the same reason are your black-eyed Susan or your Rudbeckia flowers that are perennial. Go ahead and keep those seed heads on the plants. Again, if the leaves are diseased, go ahead and remove those, but it can provide really good forage for the wildlife during the winter. So another thing that's really good for winter interest is going to be your ornamental grasses. Now you do have to be careful with this, because if you get a heavy snow load, some of them are going to be very much prone to flopping. So if you do have a lot of heavy snow, you may want to go ahead and take your ornamental grasses out, but if not, it would provide a lot of good winter interest. So number 5 would be ferns, for pretty much the same reason. They provide a lot of good winter interest. To have some that turn bronze in the fall and they're just beautiful. They lasted all winter, looked beautiful this spring. But again, in the spring, if they are impeding the growth of the plant, go ahead and clean those out at that point. So number 6 is going to be milkweed. This is another one that provides a really good food source for birds and other creatures throughout the winter. So go ahead and leave that one up. And then assess it come late winter, early spring, to see what needs to be cleaned out. One that surprised me was the red hot poker or Canophia. Really, really beautiful flower. It's hardy down to a zone 5, but the recommendations I saw online said not to cut it back because it is not super cold tolerant, and the foliage on top of the root base can help protect it during the cold winter months. So Canophia or red hot poker flower. They have red ones. I have the pineapple yellow one. And that might be why my red ones didn't survive last year, actually, because I cut them back. The yellow ones did, but the red ones did. So Canophia, red hot poker, yellow or red, don't cut that back. So hardy geranium's another one to leave up during the winter, especially if you're in a little bit milder climate, because it will stay partially evergreen throughout the season, to give you a really good winter interest in your garden. So the 9th one is going to be your sedum, stonecrop type perennials. They provide a lot of winter interest and are super, super hardy. You may not even notice a difference from the fall through the winter to the next year. So they're really very hardy plant and provide a lot of really good winter interest. So if you would like to see how I'm going to clean up my garden beds and get them ready for spring, check out this video. And until that, this will give you a really good way to know what perennials you should cut back and which ones you may want to leave. And until the next time, I hope you have a wonderful day, and bye.